Hey, this is Russell, and today I've got 4 persuasion secrets to help you sell more of your stuff online, drive more traffic, make more money, and have a lot more fun. We're gonna jump over here to the screen. I'm gonna show you guys 4 clips from a presentation I did at Funnel Hacking Live called Persuasion Secrets. I did half this presentation myself. The second half was done by Mr. Myron Golden, and today I'm gonna give you my half, and if you enjoyed this part 1 of Persuasion Secrets, let me know in the comments down below, and we'll give you part 2 next week to go through all of Myron's Persuasion Secrets. All right, so principle number 1 is called social compliance. This is one of my favorite ways to sell more on your webinars, your live events, anywhere you're trying to sell more. Learning how to use social compliance will change everything for you. With that said, let's jump into the first clip about social compliance from Funnel Hacking Live. First principle I'm going to talk about when you are persuading people is a principle called social compliance. Who's ever heard of that before? Okay, to begin with, I'm actually going to show it really quick. It's like a minute-long trailer for a movie. It's a documentary on Netflix called The Push. Who here's ever seen The Push before? Okay, to set this up, this documentary is crazy. This is your assigned homework for the next week is go home and watch this. But basically, it was a social experiment to see if they could get somebody they'd met brand new and within a 90-minute window get that person to push somebody off of a building to their death. Could they actually do that? Now, logically, there's no way, that's not possible. But as you watch the documentary, the 4 people they took to it, 3 of the 4 people thought they were pushing somebody to their death within 90 minutes of the experiment starting. And so I want to show you guys this documentary just because it's kind of creepy, kind of evil, but also there's some really cool principles we're talking about. So let's cue up that documentary trailer right now.
Chris is enmeshed in a web of lies, and that's important. I need him to feel like there's only one way out when he's told to commit murder. My name is Darren Brown, and the question we're considering is simple. Can we be manipulated through social pressure to commit murder?
70 people coming in here. They can't see this. Take them by the knees.
70 actors will be playing out a meticulously planned and rehearsed scenario to manipulate this man, who has no idea he's being filmed.
Come on, guys, what are we going to do? He's a millionaire. He's going to make sure you go to jail.
This show is about how readily we hand over authorship of our lives every day.
Just give him one big push.
Can social compliance be used to make someone push a living, breathing human being to their death? Welcome to The Push.
Whoa! So everyone's like, do we clap? That's horrible. All right, so obviously my goal is not to get any of you guys to push somebody to their death in 90 minutes period of time. But there are many times in my life where I need to use compliance and things like that to get somebody to run to the back of the room to buy my product, to buy my service. And so there's interesting things that by watching that documentary, when you don't look at it through the evil side, but through the just like how can you use this as a persuasion technique, they're really powerful. So I remember when I spoke at the very first 10X event, the one that had 9,000 people in the room in the Mandalay Bay. And my goal was to set the record for the most sales in a 90-minute period of time. And I'm like, how do I get people? This is a huge audience. The stadium was like, it was just so big. It was hard. Like, how do you get rapport and persuasion? And how do you connect with people that are like from all over the place in this huge stadium? And one of the things that I learned from watching this documentary was all about getting people to make these little micro commitments. Commitments and consistency, right? They didn't walk up to the person the very first time and say, hey, go push this person off the building, because they would have said no. Instead, what they had to do is like little things. And so I thought, okay, what's the first thing I can do to get everybody as a whole, as a group, to do a little thing? I'm going to do an ask that's going to get everybody to say yes to that. And that'll be the very first ask. And then I'll go to the next and the next. Okay, so for those of you guys who had a chance to watch my presentation at 10X, what was the very first thing I did to build social compliance? Who here knows? I had everybody pull their phone out. I said, everybody pull your phone out, everyone get your thing. And suddenly within 30 seconds, I had 9,000 people in the room, all mirror and matching me, all with the same phone. And I asked them to do something, they said yes. I got people moving it around, and we were mirroring and matching, and everything was connected. Now I put it away, and I already had this connection immediately with the audience, where now we were connected. As opposed to, typically it's like, oh, there's this person on stage, they're very disconnected, and things like that. And so by doing that, I asked a little commitment, and then I asked them for another commitment, and another commitment. By the time I got to the end, it wasn't crazy for me to ask for a commitment for them to go run and spend $3,000 for an account for ClickFunnels. Does that make sense? And so for all of you guys, you can weave these social compliance things into anything you're doing, right? Just think about in the last, how long have we been going? A day and a half here at Funnel Hacking Live. I've asked you guys to do a lot of things. We had you guys stand up, we had you sit down, we had you do different things, right? I'm trying to build a rapport so that you guys will be able to move with me, be able to connect with me, and move throughout the entire event. And so that's principle number 1, is this insanely cool concept of social compliance and how to use it and weave it into all your presentations. And it works just as well like on a webinar. That's why in webinars, I'm like, who here, like, tell me what city you're from. And suddenly everyone's like, you see the chats blow up with 1,000 people telling you what cities they're from, right? Like they're social compliance, awesome. Who here came the furthest? Like, who's excited to be here? Tell me your things. And people are complying, they're filling out the chat, they're moving, and they're having them do things, right? By doing that, you're creating these little micro commitments that lead up to bigger commitments. And so there's principle number 1 is social compliance. All right, what do you guys think about principle number 1? Do you guys like that? Now, principle number 2 was Myron's. I will share that on Persuasion Secrets number 2. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comments down below. I'm gonna jump right now into principle number 3, which is called trial closes. This is one of my favorite concepts to get people to buy more of your stuff. In fact, I did a whole YouTube video about this a little while ago, and you guys kind of went crazy about it. So I want to show you guys the next persuasion secret, which is called trial closes. Okay, number 3 principle. This is one that I learned from a guy named Ted Thomas, and Ted is one of the best stage presenters like ever. And I remember when I was first learning speaking, I heard people talk about him. In fact, his nickname, they called him the Pied Piper of closing. And they said what would happen is you'd see like the Pied Piper would be like walking and all the things are falling. It's like same thing. You see him at his presentations. He'd get everybody pull their credit card out of the wallet, and then he'd get people. And if you go to YouTube and type in Ted Thomas Pied Piper, there's videos of this where he's got his credit card in hand, he's walking, and there's a line of 400 or 500 people walking around, holding their credit cards. He's walking them to the back of the room, right? The guy's famous for this. I was like, anyway, so I'd been watching him, I've been studying him, I've been learning some stuff, but I never actually met him in person. And one day I'm speaking at this event, and I'm sitting there in the room, there's probably maybe 200 people in the room, and all of a sudden, I see it. Ted Thomas walks through the back door and sits in the audience. And I was like, that's the dude who's really good at closing, and I'm trying to sell. Like, I just kind of freaked out for a second. I'm like, okay, pretend like he's not here. So I did my best to do my pitch, and I closed pretty well. People ran the back and they signed up. And then after that, he kind of lingered in the back of the room as I'm closing sales and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, and finally everyone left. And it's just him and me. And he's like, hey man, that's a great presentation. Can I take you to lunch? I was like, sure, let's go to lunch. And so he takes me to lunch. And at lunch, he starts asking me all these questions, making me feel like I'm super fascinating. He's asking me question after question after question after question. And I'm like, this is so cool. And then he stopped. He said, hey, Russell, look at your head right now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, look at your head. What's happening? He's like, you see what's happening to your head? I'm like, what happened? He's like, I got you to nod your head. He's like, you've been nodding your head for about 5 minutes right now. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I need to teach you something that's going to change your speaking career forever. He said, when I was in the back of the room, he's like, you did a great presentation, you did all the things, but I was watching the heads of the audience, and everyone's head just sat there. So nobody's head was moving. He's like, the reason why is because the only time you tried to sell me something was at the very end. The first time you asked me for for something was towards the very end. He said, if you watch the way that I speak, he said, I do these things called trial closes. Like I was just doing to you. He said, what a trial close is I ask you a quick question, like a yes or no question, where you answer yes. And he asked another question, the answer yes. He said, if you watch me at the back of the room, he said, if I'm on stage in the back of the room, he said, you'll see a sea of people whose heads are going like this for 90 minutes. They said yes thousands of times before I ever asked them to take out their credit card. And I was like, that's fascinating. Like, how does this work? He said, okay, this is what you need to do. He's like, you got to start weaving in these trial closes all throughout your presentation, right? So he said, you say something, say, you guys getting this? Does that make sense? How awesome is that? People are like, yes, yes, yes. And you keep doing that, keep weaving it in as many times as you can. So I remember after he told me that, I was trying to think of like where I could put trial closes into what I was doing. And at the time I had an automated webinar that was doing really, really good. In fact, I remember to this day, we were making $9.50 for every person who registered for the webinar. And so I got home, I took that webinar, and I got it all transcribed, and I figured out trial closes I could put throughout the entire webinar, probably 100 of them. So I wrote out these trial closes. I recorded myself just saying the trial close. Like, are you guys getting this? Is this amazing? How many of you guys wish this was you? Can you see yourself doing this? Et cetera, et cetera. I recorded those and had my brother take the video file and just weave in the trial closes. Like I didn't change the rest of the webinar, I was just weaving in the trial closes to that presentation. We put it back live and we relaunched it. And we went from making $9.50 per registrant to $16.40 per registrant just by adding in these trial closes, okay? Now, at first it's gonna feel weird because you're gonna be like feeling awkward trying to get people to say yes, but what I learned initially was I started getting these little sticky notes and I would write out different trial closes and I would stick them all over my monitor on my computer. And when I would do a webinar, I would talk about something and I'd see one and be like, oh, you guys getting this? And I'd see another one like, oh, does this make sense? Can you imagine yourself doing this? Can you, like, wouldn't that be cool to be able to do what that person just did? Like, would that change your life forever? And I get, yes, 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 yes. I started getting better and better at that. But you've probably noticed when I speak, in a traditional event, I probably ask you guys 5,000 questions in the hour I speak, even when I'm not selling something, because I'm trying to get, again, commitment, consistency, compliance, and you guys saying yes over and over and over again. And so trial close is one of the most powerful things you can start learning and mastering and weaving into everything you're doing, from Facebook Lives, Instagram, YouTube, your podcast episodes. Like, I want people nodding their head wherever they're at. Even on webinars, I'll be on a webinar, I'm like, I know you're out there somewhere, like, I know I can't see you, I want you to nod your head yes, like, tell me yes if you can see. It's like, shake your head up and down. And I'm getting them in this yes state, this yes momentum, so by the end of time when asking for money, they're so used to saying yes. And so that's the principle of trial closes. All right, welcome back. I skipped principle number 4. Again, I'm gonna show that during Persuasion Secrets number 2, when Myra Golden teaches that principle. I'm gonna jump into my number 5 principle, which is called kinda like bridges. This is one of the secrets to simplify your communication so that more people will buy from you. With that, so let's jump right into the clip about kinda like bridges right now. Okay, the next one is one of my favorites because so many of us who are speaking about the topic that we love, one of the things we want to do is we want to show the rest of the world how smart we are, right? Which is the worst way to persuade somebody. We think that, like, oh, by being more scholarly and putting on a hat and being able to use big words, people are going to think I'm very, very smart. What actually happens is it distances you from the audience, right? They're like, oh, this person is using big words. I don't understand half the things they're saying, and it separates you. Okay, so for me, if you notice, like, I always want my communication to be simple at everybody's level, so it doesn't matter how old you are, that everybody can understand the things that I'm saying. I remember back, man, this is however many years ago, before Trump was president, when they were doing all the primaries and stuff, and they did a test. I think, I don't know, one of the news stations did a test, but they took every one of the people that were running on the Republican card, and they ran their presentation through like a test to see like what age, like what grade level they're all speaking at. And the typical politician was speaking like a 7th or 8th grade level, which may seem kind of low, but whatever. But they ran Trump's back, and it was at a 4th grade level. Okay, and it's interesting because when you're trying to persuade people, if you're talking at a 7th grade level or 10th grade level or college level, you're not going to persuade them. You're going to confuse them. They're going to think they're dumb. They're going to think, and they're going to separate away. You got to be speaking at a 2nd or a 3rd grade level. Okay, that is the key through all sorts of communication. So what happens though is there's times in our communication where we're selling something, we're talking about it, we're trying to teach something where we have to use a word that's complicated, right? A bigger word. And so what I do is every time I come to a word that's kind of complicated, like for example, when I was working with Prove It, when they first launched, we were helping them write the scripts and the pitches, and it was interesting because everyone in that business, they use very techno jargon, right? They use words like ketosis and ketones and glucose and all these things that you may think, oh, everyone knows what that is. It's not true. Like, I've been in that business helping them for almost a decade now, and I still don't know the difference between glucose and ketone. I don't even know what those things even mean, right? Like, but they assume that everybody knows, and start throwing this jargon, and like you're trying to close somebody on this thing, and you're using this jargon, assuming they know what it is, and they don't. Okay? So what I do, I use this thing called the kinda like bridge. And what the kinda like bridge is you basically, every time that there's a word, let's say this is a word right here, and I'm gonna use a really confusing word, and it could be funnels, it could be ketones, it could be whatever. So let's say it's ketones. I got to realize that like most of the audience has no idea what a ketone actually is, and if they do, they probably already bought the product or service anyway. So the people I'm trying to persuade don't know what that is yet. So as soon as I say the word ketones, I have to stop and say, it's kind of like, and then I tell them a story that's going to bridge the gap for something they do understand. Okay, so it's ketones, it's kind of like, and so I draw this bridge backwards, right? It's going this direction, and I explain something that they do understand, that they already have context for. So like when I wrote the sales video for Prove It, one of the things I said, I talked about ketones. I said, in the script I said, then you drink this stuff, and you get these things in your body called ketones. Ketones are kind of like having a million motivational speakers who are running through your body, making you feel amazing. And people are like, oh, that sounds awesome. They don't know what ketones are, but they know what motivational speakers and 1,000 running through your body, like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay? And so anytime I'm speaking, I try to figure out, like, what are the words that are going to come over here that are going to be this wall that as soon as somebody hears it and they don't understand it, they feel dumb, and they kind of start separating away from you. Okay, every time that comes up, I got to stop and say, what's a kind of like bridge? One of my favorite people inside of my Category Kings program, Ryan Lee and Brad Gibb. Are you guys here somewhere probably? Yeah, they're here somewhere. They were probably the best, they were probably the worst at this and now the best at this. When they first came into our world, they're selling financial planning, all these things, and they used words that were so big that I don't know what they're talking about. And they're like, but Russell, you have tons of money, you should bubble, and they started dumping these words on me, and I was like, none of these words are English. Like, I don't know what you're saying. And they're like, but you're an educated person. You have tons of money. I'm like, yeah, I still don't understand the thing you're saying. And so they literally went back to their presentations and their webinars and their speaking, and they figured out kind of like bridges for every single principle, every single concept they had. And I watched them as they kind of struggled, and they were some of the fastest from as soon as their message like clicked. They went from not having any success to 2 Comma Club, to 2 Comma Club X and beyond in months versus decades. Like, it was crazy. And when it came down to one of the core things was coming back and simplifying their communication. Instead of using these words they assume everybody knows, they use kind of like bridges every single time. So every time you're creating webinars, slides, Instagram, anytime you use a word, you're like, somebody might not know this, just stop and like, it's kind of like this. Then you're gonna build a funnel. It's kind of like this, and you explain something that they're gonna make sense. It's kind of like bridges are so simple and so powerful, and it'll help you to be able to persuade people and move them to what you need them to do. So that is kind of like bridge. Welcome back. All right, I'll show you guys principle number 6 on the second persuasion video with Myron Golden, don't worry. But before I jump into my last principle, which is emotion, logic, fear, I want to tell you guys one thing. If you want to learn how to sell more stuff online, I'm doing a live event here in the near future called Selling Online. If you go to sellingonline.com or click on the link down below, you can go over there and register. I give you 3 days going deep on persuasion and how to sell more stuff when you're on stage, in webinars, presentations, video sales letters, wherever you're trying to sell, you learn how to sell more. Just go to sellingonline.com, go get your ticket right now. And with that said, I'm gonna jump over to principle number 7. This is called emotion, logic, fear. These are the 3 closes we use in everything we do, from sales pages to email sequences to retargeting campaigns. It's one of the most powerful persuasion techniques you can learn, you can master. With that said, let's jump over the clip right now on principle number 7, emotion, logic, and fear. This is one I could literally do a 3-day event on, but we do not have that much time, unfortunately. But I'm gonna spend 3 or 4 minutes on it, which is gonna be so much fun. So when I'm closing anybody, and this is true in all aspects of everything, in webinars, teleseminars, sales pages, email sequences, retargeting campaigns, everything. There's 3 core things that I use to close someone. Number 1 is emotion, number 2 is logic, and number 3 is fear. Now I'm gonna draw a picture of the human brain, because the human brain looks kind of like, oh, I wish it was better, like that-ish, okay? And this is like the squirrely, okay. The front of the human brain up here somewhere, this is our conscious mind, right? And our conscious mind, there's 2 things that are happening. One is called emotion, and one is called logic. Okay, back here's our subconscious mind, and then down here somewhere is the lymphatic system, I believe, and back here is where we have fear. Now, I did this whole thing at the Unlock the Secrets family event this summer with all the kids. I came out and we showed how this is an elephant, these are monkeys, this is a lizard, and we drew this big, it was so much fun. So your kids can explain this to you later if you need it to. Just ask them about the monkeys, the elephants, they'll break it back down for you. But these are things that are happening in our brain every single day. And so every single one of us works off of different things. Some of you guys are very emotional, some of you guys are very logical, and some of you guys only buy or move based off fear, okay? And so a good way to explain these first ones, if I came out to you with a box of Twinkies and I showed you the Twinkies, how many of you guys would be like, oh my gosh, I want a Twinkie right now? Who are my Twinkie, people want a Twinkie right now? Okay? That's not a very big audience, which actually makes a lot of sense. Your kids would all freak out, right? Because they see the Twinkie and emotion leads, and like, oh my gosh, I want that Twinkie so good. Okay? All of you guys in this room know what happened is you saw the Twinkie and all of a sudden logic kicked in. You're like, how many calories is it gonna be? How much sugar? I'm gonna have a sugar crash. You start logically thinking through all the things, right? Okay, and we have this thing where we're fighting between emotion and logic. Emotion and logic, these 2 things are always battling back and forth, okay? And so I'm giving a presentation, I gotta speak to both these minds. Now, for the most part, emotion for me is a better thing to close with. So I will lead with emotion. It's my best thing. I'm gonna lead with stories, emotion, to get somebody emotionally to want to move, okay? And there's gonna be a segment of the audience that's gonna move based on emotion. Okay, after I get the emotional buyers to say yes, then I have to transition to the logical buyers. People who logically need me to explain things so they can basically go back to their spouse and tell them logically why they bought it. Okay, we all know that people buy things emotionally. Like if you were to go buy a Ferrari, you sit in it, or a Lamborghini, you sit in it, you're like, oh, this would be so cool. You're driving around, you're like, this is amazing, like I feel so good. You pull up to the gas station and people are coming to you and you're like, this feels really, really good. And then you drive back home and you tell your spouse, like, hey, I just bought a Ferrari. But the thing is, it gets really good gas mileage. It has really high resale value, which is amazing. And we logically justify it, right? There's emotion, there's logic. And then the last one is fear, okay? And to overcome fear, we use urgency and scarcity. So it's interesting, if you look at just this event, for example, how many of you guys bought your tickets to last year's Funnel Hacking Live because you're like, this is amazing, I'm not gonna miss this no matter what. Who are my people who bought it last year? You're my most emotional buyers. Okay, number 2, how many of us were waiting, like who's gonna speak next year, is gonna be worth it, like is Tony coming back, who's gonna be like, I'm gonna wait and find out. How many of you guys bought between last year's Funnel Hacking Live and maybe like 3 months ago? How many of you guys bought during that window of time? Okay, very cool, so emotion, logic. Now, did you guys know that Almost 50% of our tickets are sold in the last 3 weeks. How many of you guys bought in the last 3 weeks? Oh, guess what took me to get you here? Fear of missing out, urgency, scarcity, pulling things away. Okay? Now, if I only tried to sell with emotion or only tried to sell with logic, or only tried to sell with fear, I would not make as much money. So every sales argument I have, I'm attacking emotion, logic, and fear. Okay? I do it when I'm speaking at a webinar. I'm doing it on stage. If I have a sales page, right? Here's my sales page. The top 1/3 of my sales page uses a video that's driving towards the emotion. Underneath the video, usually there's longer form copy speaking to logic. And the bottom, I have urgency and scarcity speaking towards the fear. In a retargeting campaign, guess what happens first? You hit my page and you leave. The first set of retargeting ads are all speaking towards the logic. Then we transition to emotion. Then we transition to logic, and the last ones in the campaigns transition to fear. My email sequences, guess how they go? We lead with emotion, then we go to logic, and then we go to fear, over and over and over and over again. And so for me, I'm attacking these 3 parts of the brain because these are things that either get you to move or to not move. And if I don't focus on all 3 of those I'm presenting, nobody's going to move. So there you go with emotion, logic, and fear.
Crazy town. Let's give it up for Russell Brunson, y'all. Wow. Wow.
Okay, those are 4 of my persuasion secrets. If you want the other 4 and then learn what to do next, follow me over here. I'm going to share with you guys the most important part of all. The first thing is understanding that this was just one half of the Persuasion Secrets presentation. The other half, Myron Golden gave, and he gave 4 other nuggets that were insanely cool. If you guys want me to share those as well, let me know in the comments down below. Let us know if you guys love Myron. He's one of the greatest presenters of all time. And on top of that, the last thing I want to share with you guys is the fact that there's a whole presentation I did here on YouTube about trial closes. I went deep for about 30 minutes on trial closes. You guys loved it. It was one of the highest viewed videos we had in a long, long time. If you want to watch that as well, the link should be somewhere right here. Go check out that video right now and learn more about how to use trial closes to sell more inside of your business.